Space, the final frontier. Space Station Asselin sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the USS Dilamus Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Dilamus Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek Preservations. Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Star Trek Preservations. We Season 3, Episode 5, Hidden and Not Made Manifest. This episode takes place about 2 weeks after the end of Episode 4. For everybody playing along at home, it is going to be Stardate 59495.2 is when this actually takes place. So before we get into the layout of the adventure and how this is going to take shape tonight, let's go around the room and introduce our cast of characters. Let's go in ascending. Let's go from top to bottom, rank order as you would. Officers.
Of course. Hi everyone, I am Joe Harney and I am playing Captain Sabian Tobor, the joined Trail Commanding Officer of the USS Dilamus Christian, a Sabre-class Federation starship.
Hi, I'm Adam Scaramella, and I portray Commander Ocean Chazilworth, the Dilamus Christian's Andorian First Officer.
Yep. So, I'm David Rideout. I play Lieutenant Commander Evidian Tenari, the Andorian Chief Engineer of the Dilamus Christian. And Captain, the ship is ready for ludicrous speed.
Excellent. Are we in a gigantic Winnebago with a half man, half dog?
It's Mog, he's his own best friend. And you have, Dave, you have no idea how prescient that statement is with the week I had at work.
Hi, I'm Lacey Knudsen, and I am playing Lieutenant Narila Nalan, the science officer on the Dilamus Christian.
Fantastic. All right. So tonight's adventure, it's going to be a station adventure for the most part. There'll be obviously some travel time ahead of time, but the long and the short of it is that after the events of episode 4, Captain Tobor received a message from the ROC command detailing that there was something happening on the station and that the Dilamus Christian should return. Let me go ahead and read through here, and then we'll go ahead and get into what this is going to mean. Issued by ROC command Vice Admiral Tovek, the same Vice Admiral that set up the evaluation screenings in episode 3, and sent to the command of the Dilamus Christian. Subject: promotion to the rank of fleet captain, which probably a somewhat confusing headline when you first read it, Tobor. But the message reads: in order to support the needs of all personnel under command of the ROC Group Rutledge and support field operations for all primary and secondary vessels based out of SCS-68-26 Station Asselin, it is my happy duty to report that Captain Jabuk Torreo of the USS Marathon, NCC 74656, is to be named Fleet Captain. All ships which have been transferred to direct report under the ROC shall henceforth report to Captain Torreo. After an extensive search and evaluation process, Captain Torreo was named to lead the field operations due largely to his impressive experience. His resume includes long years of service to the Federation, and he has received letters of marque for his research into the Deltans in particular. He will be a welcome, steady hand, and his promotion will be a boon to the captains and senior crew of each ship under his command. Captain Torreo will report directly to me and will retain command of the USS Marathon for as long as his duties allow. Captain Terreo extends an invitation to ship captains which are under the command of the ROC to attend his promotion ceremony, and then a list of the ships which will be attending. The Michael Collins, of course, on long-range patrol, was not able to go ahead and make it back in time, so was excused absence from the forthcoming ceremony, and then details that the ceremony will be held at 1800 hours at Asselin Station. So that is ostensibly the mission that you have been given. Presumably, from wherever you were, took your time to wrap up whatever you were in to get back to Asselin Station in time. Tobor, let's start with you. You have been invited personally to attend the ceremony. I will open the floor first for questions or information that you would like to seek so that we can make sure that you know who the players are and what's on the table.
Yeah, so Tobor is familiar with all but one of the captains on the list.
Yeah,
Who is Captain Eben Thorne of the USS Penumbra.
correct.
I'd want to do some quiet digging into who they are and their past and when the Penumbra was assigned to the group and like for what ostensible like official reasoning to get that reinforcement.
I love that. We're going to kick right off here with some rolls. And there's going to be some additional difficulty because you're asking to go ahead and do it secretively and stuff like that. What would you like to bid? How would you like to go ahead and go about this?
So I'm going to bid presence and command to reach out into the captain's network of people I've worked with in the past. And hey, any of you all work with Thorne? And if so, what's his deal? Kind of thing.
I like it. What discipline and attribute would you like to bid for this, I guess is the question.
So I'm thinking of my presence and command because I'm tapping into the fleet water cooler gossip channel. I'm not going to ask him. I'm going to ask my reputation 5 professional network.
Fair enough. Yeah, okay. I'll give it a difficulty 2 challenge. Because again, if you're like poking around the edges, but trying not to go ahead and stir up too much of the silt at the bottom of the ocean.
All right. I've got diplomacy. I've got Starfleet protocol.
Sure. Yeah.
As a focus.
Yep. I'd say all those would count. Yeah.
Would my trait of being a Starfleet officer help reduce the difficulty of this task? Because along with my reputation.
Yeah, I'm going to say that who you are makes that come out as a wash, right? Because yes, you are a highly regarded and well-decorated captain. I'm not going to say on the outs, but there have been some kind of political things that have happened because of the way that Pritchard left and the way that you guys were aligned with Pritchard and all that sort of stuff. There's some brackish midwater that's at play here that is not really damaging your reputation, but perhaps altering how some people see it. So I think that stuff all comes out in the wash. It doesn't make it any more difficult. It doesn't make it any less difficult.
All right. Then I'm going to spend a threat to get a 3rd die.
I like it.
And a 1, 3, and 14. 5 successes.
5 successes. Okay. Your 14 is a success?
Yes.
Oh, crazy. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So starting right... I like it. So starting right off, gaining 3 momentum in the pool. Here is the thing. So you're tossing around the Penumbra and Thorne. Nobody that you have talked to has ever worked with Thorne, in fact. It's not really a name that they're familiar with. Like, they may know the name. They may have heard it bandied about, stuff like that. But they've never actually worked with him. No one's really sure kind of what his workload has been. No one is really sure what the mission protocol or the mission profile of the Penumbra has been. And yet, as you're having these conversations, you're fairly certain that you know that name, but no one's validating that for you.
It's a common enough name, but can't put my finger on where it's from.
It's in fact,
7 lifetimes of my history.
In fact, it's one of those things that it is standing out to you that you know that name and that nobody else seems to have any information really about him. That feels very weird to you. Especially where nobody else really knows the mission profile of the Penumbra either. But again, there's something about it that feels familiar about it. Would you like to go ahead and spend one of the momentum that you just earned for maybe a little bit more?
Definitely.
Yeah. So you feel the more, again, like the more that you ask, the more it feels weird that there's not there. So you kind of keep chewing on it, keep thinking about it, and you're realizing why that name stood out in the message that you received. There's something about the font and the way that it was laid out in the LCARS mission that's, wait a minute, this is not a Starfleet standard template. As you're looking at the image, it's like that entry in it that you want to list the ships that are attending, that entry is like a little bit bigger, the font is not right, the color is wrong, that kind of thing. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, that almost looks like it was added into the message at some point between the point when it was sent and when it was received. That's not usual. Beyond that, also, when you went to go confirm receipt of the message, because as things like this, they have like the read receipt on them. They want to make sure that you're coming. When you tried to go ahead and read receipt it, it gave you a hash error, basically saying that the message couldn't be validated. And a day or two later, you got a follow-up message from one of the adjutants attached to the Vice Admiral's office, just saying that they hadn't heard from you and are you coming? And assuming that you confirmed that, yes, you are in fact on the way there, confirmed that. Would you have said anything about the difficulties that you had with the initial email when they contacted you?
Yeah, I would have. I presumed I would have responded with the red receipt acknowledgement and let them know I thought that was out. Apologies for that. Not sure what happened. I'll have my communications officer take a look at it and pass it.
Yeah, and they'll write it off as, oh, there's been a bunch of transition here at the station. It's probably nothing. I appreciate you confirming. But it's definitely something is in your craw about the message. Like this, something doesn't feel correct.
All right, let's get the conspiracy board together.
Already, yeah. It's a change. Exactly, yeah. So as we were saying ahead of time, Ocean, you also received a communique after once it was confirmed that the Dilamus Christian will be arriving there. And again, basically somebody from the Admiral scheduling office saying that they understand that you've been looking to go ahead and find a time to meet with the other XOs, and that they would be happy to go ahead and provide space and time for this to happen.
So I've been doing all that more or less under the radar. Are they coming out and saying that they know that?
Okay, so that might just be something that I misunderstood then, because I thought you were making it known that you wanted to go ahead and do it.
No,
so
I've been reaching out to them one at a time or in small little chat groups. But no, it would be good for us to get together. So if there's like a situation where we want to get it might be good to. But all right, so just to play off of what you've already thought through,
there's certainly plenty of reasons why
there and knowing that we're going to be gathering, I might have asked them to put together a small gathering.
Absolutely, yeah. Or maybe one of the other XOs did, or maybe the new fleet captain just thinks that it's a good idea. There's any number of conceits about why all of the XOs would get together, even if they aren't explicitly aware of kind of the quiet nature that you've been hinting around. That should happen. Yeah. Any questions that you have then, or anything that you would like to? And I'll also, just to go ahead and clarify too, once we've gone around and made sure that everyone knows everyone has an idea about what they want to do when they get there, obviously we'll give you, there's plenty of time to go ahead and get together the four of you and discuss what this is going to be like. So there'll be plenty of time for that on transit also.
The only thing that I would have, I think I was owed a list of all the XOs their names, but you'll probably give me those during the session.
Yeah, I can certainly go ahead and get you that. Yep, no problem.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, no. So at this point, unless the captain is letting me know that he's having issues figuring out who this Thorn guy is, then I have nothing else to contribute.
I would suspect that will come up in our next scene here. Yeah. All right, Mr. Tanari. Now, obviously, with an engineer of your caliber, and all of the ships in the operational command group at the same place, there certainly would be the opportunity for you to lead some of the fleet-wide upgrades that you have been talking about for several months now. That would be where I would think would make the most sense for Tanari to allocate himself with everybody here. But if you have another idea, I am happy to listen. Or what you would like to.
I think that sounds reasonable, especially with the sensors.
Yep, for sure. Okay. Fair enough then. That's all fine there. And then how much time has she spent on Asselin Station? I guess is the first question.
Probably not a ton of time.
Yeah. Okay. The space station is a fairly diverse place, way more diverse than the Dilamus Christian. There's a lot going on there. So, given the opportunity for some networking, hobnobbing, or experimentation in larger sort of laboratories with other scientific minds, what do you think Narila would take the opportunity to do, or would you like some options that could present themselves?
I think Narilla's still working on some subspace weapon stuff. So
Okay.
she'll probably be gathering some information on that, but maybe other things as well.
Okay. All right. And anything that she would want to do more recreationally? Aside from just like hollow suites, but are there like any scientific research that she's looking to dig up on, or because she's biology focused, right?
She is.
Yeah.
Her special interest is actually in people, and her what's that her pastime is portrait painting. So
Okay.
meeting different species and
Sure. Yeah. There are lots. There will be lots of different species on board Asselin Station at this time in particular. And you also know that Asselin Station, and I'm not even sure that the rest of the crew is aware of this, but has developed quite a robust hydroponic lab where they do all sorts of interesting plant-based DNA genetic kind of work. So that's certainly something that would be available. So
definitely
there's
be interested in that.
yeah, cool. All right, but all sorts of options there. So we can go ahead and get into that when we get to the actual station. Okay, so does everybody kind of, except for I know Narila, maybe it's a little bit more vague, but everyone else kind of has an idea about what they're going to be doing, at least to start here. Tober, would you indeed call the senior staff together on the way there?
First, I would just touch base with our comms officer and just say, hey, this thing bounced. It's got a weird thing. There's a weird font thing.
Yeah.
I dislike weird, especially with Tanari on board. He'll start to think it's something conspiracy. Can you please just check it out, make sure that what happened to it? If there's a glitch on our side, let me know. If there's a glitch on the sending side, we'll let them know.
Sure. I think he would be more than happy to do that. He is, let's see, let's give him a roll here. Would you like to roll for Arvik and maybe have somebody roll an assist from the computer? Because I assume that he would basically be running a diagnostic on the comm system to see what he can find. Again, we're going to stick with this as a difficulty 2 challenge. Who normally plays Arvik, actually? Is it assigned to anybody in particular?
He's just generally been an NPC, and since this is his comms wheelhouse, I think he should get the NPC exceptional 11 and 4, so the 15 or lower.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep. And then, like I said, we can give him an assist for the computer. So who would like to roll? How about Sonara? Would you like to roll for the computer?
I think Adam should roll for the computer.
I've already been asked.
Yeah.
I rolled a 4.
Dope.
I got a 1 and a 9 for Staven.
Okay, so that's what, 4 successes then?
3 plus the assist, for
4. Okay, so two more momentum, which is fun. Excellent. Yeah, he does his thing and he reports back to you. It takes a little bit of time to go ahead and run the diagnostics and everything like that. And his report back to you is that it does not seem to be an issue on our side, but I'm also not totally convinced that it was an issue on the sending side either. I wonder if something happened to the message in transit, because that's the only reason why I could think that something would get inserted into the message in a way that would disrupt the file hash, which is why you weren't able to go ahead and successfully reply to the message. Basically, what was happening is that you weren't replying to the same message that was sent, and that's why it didn't work.
So we're thinking the original message was intercepted, altered, and then continued forward?
That's as bizarre as that sounds, sir. That's what I'm saying. Logic dictates that can be the only option. If there's no problem, if it was sent correctly and it was received correctly, but yet it was not correct on the other side, something happened in flight.
Can you start putting together, can you backtrace which subspace relays this message would have had to hop to get from Asselin to us?
Sure. Yep.
And figure out where it might have been an issue.
That's all in the header information. And he can say that on the third hop is when it when the hash seems to have changed, so it would stand to reason that is where the message was augmented.
All right, and then if it's, I don't know if it's relevant, Josh, but figure out where that subspace relay is, and is it like suspiciously the subspace relay on the edge of like Talaran space, or like,
Yeah, that's
or just happens to be right next
Yeah.
to what's his name's hideout.
Yeah, or a Breen ship flew by there a week ago or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There does not seem to be anything suspicious about the location. The location just seems to be, the station seems to be in working order. Yeah, the station seems to be in working order. There doesn't seem to be anything suspicious about the location of it. Yeah. It's nothing that you guys have done a bunch of subspace work over the last however many months and years. So it's nothing that's not a region that has ever been like, oh, haha, there is our problem. Nothing like that. It seems to be a standard subspace relay.
All right. So what I'd have Staven follow up with that, like ping the relay for a history of, hey,
Sure.
did anything weird happen in this around this time code type thing? I'll send down to the science astrometrics to try and see if there was any Michael Collin-esque subspace distortion.
Right, yeah, like Michael Collins reappearing from 20 years in the past kind of thing, yeah.
Essentially, I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole, but I'll do my due diligence.
Yep,
right?
Fair enough. So basically, Arvik is able to download the maintenance and transmission logs. It's Subspace Relay 523 for the record, and there doesn't seem to be anything unusual in the logs. Nothing that you could key in on and say, "Haha, that's where the problem was." It seems to have been at his best thought at this point is that it was either intentional from somebody who really knew what they were doing, or a quirk of subspace. There still does seem to be, for you in particular, something. It's like a corn kernel in your teeth. It's aside from the fact that this is weird.
Yeah. So do you need me to spend a momentum to learn what class of ship the USS Penumbra is?
You certainly can. Yes.
If it's just, it should be a trivial database search if it's a registered.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I'm not going to make you spend the momentum. I'm not going to make you spend the momentum because as you're searching through, what is the Penumbra? Who is this? Who is this guy? What you're realizing is that the USS Penumbra is probably a misnamed name. The Penumbra wasn't a ship. Penumbra was a code name on a project which has since been marked top secret 25 years ago. And this continues. So I will, however, the more that you're digging into this, the more you wonder if you know what Penumbra was, or at least part of you knows.
Yeah, I will. So I'll use my join trill talent to get the focus in old classified Starfleet missions.
Yep.
And be like.
So there are two things that you get when you tap into your trill memory. The first is that operation or codename Penumbra was the operational code name for what eventually became Epsilon Protocol. And Eben Thorn is a well-known alias that Pritchard used in a variety of secure contacts. When he didn't want to know who was behind certain things, Eben Thorn was the name. You saw that name a lot when you and him worked together in your previous life.
Done. Okay, now I definitely won't tell anyone.
Yeah. So that is what. So how would you proceed on the rest of the journey? Would you be pulling together the senior staff to reveal what you know, or are you keeping this very much under wraps and to yourself?
I'm keeping it to myself at this point. The one thing I will be suggesting to the new fleet captain, in like an attempt to ingratiate or brown nose or anything, but I'm like, since the ships of the battle group or of the patrol group are in the same space at the same time, it makes sense that we should have some breakout sessions for all of our department heads to get together and socialize and compare notes and have those cross talks where when you have those sessions where you form the unexpected connections between information that's been bouncing around in silos.
Yep. His response back is brief without being terse. It is basically, yes, I agree. We are no longer 7 distinct ships. We are one fleet. So,
thumbs up emoji.
exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll pass the memos on to the senior department heads, like plan to connect with your counterparts.
Yep.
Talk about what we've been working on that we can, that's not classified.
Yep.
And do that thing where you cross collaborate and come out with something that is more than the sum of its parts.
All right. Adam, just a heads up, I muted you just because you weren't on mute, and so there's just a lot of background noise. That sounds like you're under the weather. Sorry to hear that. All right. Anything else then? Any other meetings or anything or any other information? Do you want to learn anything about the fleet captain? There's plenty of information on him if you'd like it.
I'll let Commander Ocean dig that up.
Sure.
Because I can get the official briefing, but I want the unofficial dirt.
Oh, okay, I like it. Would you like to engage some shady contacts to see what you can learn about the new fleet captain, Ocean? Don't forget to take yourself. Yeah.
He is well informed, after all.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well informed. The question is, I'm trying to come up with a reason why he would do this if he wasn't being given any of this information about the other ship, and that sort of, I was locked onto that, so that's where my brain has been.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think, given the fact that I believe the marathon was I wrote this down a while back.
If it helps, I'll literally ask.
Yeah, they were the scout ship.
Correct. Yeah, they're scout.
They were the scout ship, and it doesn't. It seems, at least to an Andorian, it seems odd. That's the person that would have been put in charge. Yeah, I'll drop a threat to see if I can dig out some information about what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
and I think in this scenario, it might actually be not necessarily through the underhanded means, but just poking the tree with the folks within Starfleet that have.
I think that it would be perfectly reasonable for that threat that you're engaging to represent probably somebody on Asselin Station that is, again, one of the secretarial types that is in the ROC, sees paperwork coming back and forth, hears conversations in the hallways, all that sort of stuff. What you are able to get from them, if you're, hey, we're coming in to meet the new fleet commander, the new fleet captain, who dat? The response would basically be, yeah, the ROC is really hot on turning a page in this region. They obviously got their nose way out of joint with Pritchard, and they are very much looking for someone or a group of someones to come in and give a new direction and clean house a little bit on some level, really reestablish what their version of Starfleet should be in this region of space. They think that Pritchard colored too far out of the lines, and that they are looking to find someone who is much more strict about the lines, and that they have definitely found that in the new fleet captain. He is a individual of few words. He's a Benzite, and he is exceptionally stern. He is a decorated and well-trained commander. Like, he came up through the command track in Starfleet. He has the kind of the phrase that was used is that he's been bred for command for a very long time. He is a well-seasoned officer, but is known for being very to the letter without coming off as strict. The protocol is the protocol, and that he is known for being very cool under pressure in particular.
But am I getting the impression that this is someone who is going to be, when you say by the book, where he is going to be, I don't want to say quoting Starfleet regulations, but being very predictable as far as the fact that he's going to do these sort of scenarios. Basically, he's going to be predictable. in the same way that back in the movie Die Hard, where they said, leave it to the FBI, and they knew their playbook. So
Yep.
I'm just curious as to whether or not that he has that type of mentality.
Yeah. Not be the one to go ahead and say that he's going to be quoting Starfleet regulations whenever he has to go ahead and do anything. However, he is definitely the type that would quote Starfleet regulations when he has to do a thing. So like any sort of like discipline or commendation would be by the book to the letter of what it is supposed to be. And predictable, I think, is a really good way to put it, because the feeling is that there won't be any surprises from this guy. For better or for worse.
No predictability survives contact with the Dilamus Christian.
Wait till he gets a load of me.
I
don't remember what movie that was from. Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, okay. If that's the case, then I will just file that away. While I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, it does make sense, although it does rub Ocean. The idea of somebody who's bred for success is something that it's something that Ocean's seen in Starfleet recently a lot, and it pisses him off.
Yeah, I can imagine. Ocean as somebody who is effective because he colors outside the lines a little bit. It would be a reasonable assumption that your job, the way that you do your job, may get a little trickier. Maybe harder is the wrong word, but trickier.
Oh no, the bred for success thing it goes back to the ensign who got the job on the Xindi ship. It goes back to the fact that I told my daughter that she will never get any more than favorable treatment from me.
Yep.
So
I can see.
And just I look at that kind of thing. Okay, it's a boys' crowd, the old boys group. Screw that noise.
At least with this, you can feel like this isn't like a nepotism thing. It's not like his father's an admiral, that kind of thing. You do feel like, and again, on kind of like the paperwork, the write-ups or the background checks that they did on him, he excelled in the command track at Starfleet Academy. It wasn't even so much that they're like, oh, like they passed the sorting hat around and he chose command and that's where he went. Like, people saw something in him that he continued to back up, right? That he demonstrated a real aptitude for people and for understanding the right thing to do within, but is also very good at doing the right thing within the framework that he's been provided. He's not likely to make decisions that seem unsupported or make decisions that seem like he's not coloring outside of the lines. Like, he knows the framework that he's operating within. He knows the rules that he's operating within, and that he firmly believes that those rules and that structure provide a framework for doing the right thing all the time. He's like the epitome of the original like D&D paladins, right? Where it's like they're all lawful good, and it's like, that is my compass. As long as I stay on that side of the compass, everything works. He's like that.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, Josh, on that note, can I spend a momentum? Because I want to get a little why fleet captain and not Commodore?
Yeah. That is more of a reticence on the half of the operational group. They're not looking to, so for one, they're not looking to go ahead and promote anybody else to captain to take over the marathon. And while in theory, as a Commodore, he could have continued to go ahead and lead the marathon, that becomes dicier if it's not necessarily a flagship. Thing one, they didn't want to make him a paper pusher in an office. They want him to stay in the field and specifically be a resource for other captains in the operational group, as opposed to, again, being a paper pusher in Asselin Station. Vice Admiral Tovek is continuing to go ahead and keep command command of Asselin Station, and the new fleet captain will be reporting to him directly, and that you as the ship captains will be reporting to the new fleet captain. And so, yeah, it's a little unusual that they're putting him at this rank instead of Commodore. But what you're feeling is that's more of a general reticence of the operational command, not to push anything. They want to walk everything very slowly, as opposed to making decisions which could be perceived as rash or anything like that. They're being very cognizant of appearances. They're being very cognizant of the procedure, and they're being very cognizant of the changes and the choices that they're making. And again, you're getting that feeling that Pritchard was a lot. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're not creating another Pritchard, and they're looking at it in that way.
And then so you'd said something that kind of kicked to my brain was he was bred for success.
Sure.
But whose definition of success? Who's been his political patrons? Who, even Tovrek is not, he's the implementation guy. Who's the like policy Federation counselors and admirals in San Francisco at Starfleet headquarters that are like, okay, we need to do whose agenda are they all essentially serving at the highest level?
So the agenda, I don't have specific names for you, but the agenda that the people that he's connected to politically it's one of kind of restraint, and not like the grandiose geopolitical ideals, capital I, of Starfleet, but more like the idealistic Starfleet practitioners, where it's like, we have these things that have been laid out. We have been thinking through how the Federation of Planets should run for 200 years now or whatever. These are the things that seem to be shared across all of the communities and within all of the species of Starfleet. These are the sort of ideals that we can agree to that are right and proper. So they're very much like almost like the traditionalist wing, where it's how Starfleet should run.
Forget the Dominion War. Let's get back to doing what we're supposed to
be doing. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe not even so much on like the exploration, what's in that galaxy over there sort of wing, but it's way more of the kind of like the protocol wonks that are like, this is how an administration is supposed to function. We need to get that done first before we can do all of the rest of it.
Yeah, the CFO got promoted to CEO.
Just like that. Exactly. Yeah.
Bean counters are in charge now. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So
great.
Yep.
I'll polish up my pips.
Yep.
And practice my Starfleet. Well, I got Starfleet protocols. I know
Starfleet
all the
protocol,
rules, which ones to bend and which ones to break. And just to confirm, even on the list, I'm still the junior most captain of the group.
I would think so, because you only made captain not long ago, right?
Correct.
Yeah. You had been like the commander in charge of the Dilamus Christian for a long time, right? Yeah. So you're certainly the most junior captain in the list.
Perfect.
Yep.
So yeah, unless anyone else wants to talk shop, happy to set up individual like one-on-ones with the department heads.
Yep.
Get kind of in these rare moments of peace in between insanity, like how are things going, checking in on everyone.
Yeah. And Ocean, you'd said that you were also keyed in on the fact that there seemed to be a ship on the list that was not in the operational group. Had you said that, or am I making that up?
I'm now assuming that I was not aware of that, because
that's true.
Tobor
Actually,
did not share that.
That's actually a really fair point. So Tobor, I guess, how much of the original message did you share with senior staff, or had you done your vetting of the Penumbra and Ebon Thorn before dispersing it?
Yeah, I would have. Honestly, I would have not thought anything of it.
Yep.
Hey, we've got a new fleet captain. We're going to his promotion ceremony.
Yep.
And then it would only after Asselin recontacted me for hey, we didn't get your receipt.
We didn't get your RSVP.
And then I did the closed circuit thing with Steven.
Yep.
And then I'm like, you son of a bitch, Richard.
So then if you wouldn't have thought twice about sending the message on, then Ocean, you saw the message with a as it got sent out. So would that have raised any?
Yeah, I would probably have dug into trying to find out who the new the new XO was. And I'm not finding any information, am I?
You're not finding any information. That's correct. In fact, what you're finding the same sort of information that Tobor found, in that the Penumbra is not a ship. It was a code. It was a code name assigned to a project which has been mothballed, and that there is not a Captain Ebonthorn that you can find necessarily. And your Ocean is technically savvy enough to know that, yeah, this is suspicious. It seems like the message may have been modified.
Okay. So I will. I would make sure that Tobor is also aware of it, and if he doesn't wave me off from digging into it, I will dig into it.
All right. So y'all play that out. What do you got?
Sir, did you notice this about the incoming message?
I'm assuming you're referring to the Penumbra?
Yes.
I did. Why don't you swing by my quarters and we'll have dinner this evening?
Later that afternoon.
So that's, yeah. So I will, there'll be that initial look on his face that you've just derailed whatever train of thought he was going down, but he quickly catches on that, okay, yeah. And I'll nod and go back to what I was doing.
Yep. All right. So is that just like secret code, or do you actually have dinner that evening?
No, we actually have dinner, and during the discussion and everything, I'll tell him back when Nerlina was working with Pritchard, these were both codes that we use and aliases that he used, and that this message was intercepted between here and Asselin, and this was inserted into it. So there is something afoot. Don't tell Tanari.
No, but we should probably be open to the possibility that he will be trying to connect with one or both of us.
Technically, he connected with me.
But
he just assumed that I would remember. Took me a hot minute, I'll be honest. Embarrassingly long time to recollect, even for a trill. It's a lot of memories to go through. So, are you getting? I have the pad. One of my pads has got the new fleet captain's bio and everything. I'm like, are you getting the same straight-laced, by the book, Starfleet captain number, serial number 111-11 vibe as I am?
that's one way to put it, yes.
You ever work with them?
Never.
Yeah, nor have I really, other than in passing.
No. Neither the Lexington nor the Nautilus had any common missions with them.
That's one thing with a Benzite. It's always hard to tell if they're actually frowning at you in disapproval, or if that was just him frowning at Pritchard's ability to creatively interpret the situation and come away with a success that would not be found if you stuck to the book.
My father taught me to, when you're dealing with somebody whose face is masked, you watch their eyes.
Very true. But more importantly, you, in a situation like this, with this new change in command, there are greater political machinations happening. And I'm afraid we are caught squarely in the middle of it. That there's been a growing movement in Starfleet at the command echelon levels, safe and sound in San Francisco and in Paris that they want to just get back to the way things were and bury the bloody lessons we learned in the Dominion War along with our dead. And I understand the impulse very much, but the galaxy is not the same place it was 25 years ago when Captain Picard took the Enterprise D to the edges of known space and back.
I'm not sure it was as how would the humans put it, flowers and roses, as they would paint that picture.
Of course, the past always has the tinge of nostalgia where we remember the better parts and smooth off the sharp edges. It's one of the reasons why my kind is so careful and reticent about revealing our nature. Is we have to ensure we have lifetimes of memories to make sure that we're not engaging in fanciful bouts of nostalgia. Because I remember a time before the existence of the Federation. Were those better times? I could not honestly say. Definitely, it was better than during the First Romulan War. But then the peace that followed, but then the Klingon War, then the peace that followed, and then the Cardassian War. Seems each time the Federation expands, it bumps into something that seeks to return the balance of power to the galaxy the way it had been.
My grandmother would have had a comment about pink skins at this point.
Yes, we all bring to the table our own unique perspectives. And I value yours tremendously.
Thank you.
So I assume during the breakout sessions, you're going to connect with your fellow exos and put together some contingency planning.
That's already been in the works for some time.
I know I've been watching behind the scenes.
But it would be good to put some FaceTime in, I believe is the term.
Indeed, I gotta get out my spit and polish and shine everything up nice and bright and put on my good boy trousers.
Yes. It's entirely. Before we get there, I may want to review some of the simulations that Najjar left for me. I think it's entirely possible that Commander Frank may want to follow through on that particular sparring session.
Try not to get hurt too bad.
Now it's no longer a matter of teaching the other crews that the Christian is not to be underestimated. And now it's just more about camaraderie.
Perfect. If anything interesting or off the books comes up, I trust you'll make the best of the opportunity.
As I leave your quarters, I stop and I turn. I don't turn, but there's that pause. Sir, it almost sounded like you thought she could take me. And I just continue walking out the door.
Excellent. Computer reset temperature to normal parameters.
Right.